Hello everyone, this is Mrs. Nguyen. In this video, I will be talking about your first essay assignment, which is the cause and effect essay. Alright, so basically the main objective of this essay is to have you investigate an issue, an event, or a phenomenon in order to determine why it happened or what caused what are some of the things that cause the issue, event, or phenomenon, or what are some of the effects that result or that came out of the issue, phenomenon, or event. In order to do this effectively, it goes without saying that you will have to apply a specific type of critical thinking, and the specific type of critical thinking might ask you to analyze your issue or event, specifically tracing it backward or looking ahead. So it will ask you to apply your analytical thinking skill, which is a type of critical thinking. And it will also, and as a part of that, you should be using your cause and effect reasoning in order to determine if something, for example, is actually the cause of something else, or does it only seem to be the cause of something else that upon closer examination it is simply a coincidence, for example. Alright, so cause and effect reasoning is something that we probably do every day without realizing it. It is a very important reasoning skills, both informal for both informal and formal situations. Okay, you may in your everyday life, right, or every day you may have moments where you think to yourself, how did that happen, or why did that happen? Why did I hit that car from behind? Why was I being so impatient with my daughter or son when they asked if they could have ice cream for dinner? Okay, or did that argument have to go as far as it does? Okay, so these are some as far as it did. These are just some of the things that you may find yourself asking on a day-to-day basis. You know, things happen to you as soon as you wake up, you step out of bed, you step out of your bedroom, and things happen to you, or you make things happen. And you know, some of those things may not happen in a way that satisfy you, or that satisfy you. And in moments like that, you know, you may want to reflect upon what happened in order to understand the situation better, and in order to understand yourself better, and and it also can improve your relationship with other people. Understanding, for example, why you acted the way you did, or how your action can affect, for example, how you are viewed, or your relationship with other people in your life. And so you want to understand it so that you can identify the specific things that you need to improve on, or how you can act better in order to improve, you know, the quality of your life, for instance, or the quality of your relationship to other people. So cause and effect reasoning is a very important skill that has very practical applications. So it's not something that only occurs in a classroom or in an online class like this when you are asked to write a cause and effect essay. And you know, you may find in your job or in your professional life, the cause and effect reasoning skill is very also important to your job functions. Okay, your boss, you know, or your supervisor at one time or another may have come or will come to you with a request to, write me a report on or give me a presentation, you know, a week from now, explaining why we didn't have as many customers this week as we did last week, or why enrollment at our school is lower this semester than than last semester, or something along that line, right? Or if you walk into, or if you have a stomach pain, for example, an abdominal pain, and you go to the doctor, and as soon as the doctor walks into your room, right, the first thing that you'll probably say to him or her is, I have an abdominal pain and I want to know why. What happened? Am I sick? Okay, what can I do about it? Give me some pain reliever. Well, your doctor is not going to immediately, provide you an immediate explanation or immediate diagnosis, and he or she is not going to immediately prescribe you, pain reliever, pain relieving medication, right? He or she will probably begin the diagnosis or begin trying to understand your predicament or your affliction by asking you a series of questions, right? When did it occur? What did you do last night? What did you eat the day before? Describe the pain. How long has it lasted? Have you had this kind of pain before? Have you traveled out of the country? Have you done anything out of the norm? Do you know if you're allergic to anything? Just anything along that line of questioning that seeks to gain a better understanding of the situation and the environment in which the thing occurred, or in which the thing into which the thing came. Okay. And then maybe after getting that understanding, then he or she, the doctor, may begin to investigate, some possible causes and so forth. All right, so those are just some examples of how cause and effect reasoning can be an effective tool for problem solving in many areas of life, in many aspects of your life, both professionally and informally and formally, of course. Alright, so let's talk specifically about this essay assignment. The cause and effect essay assignment asks that you investigate only one of the following. That you take only one of the following directions. Now, keep in mind that we are writing only a 5-paragraph essay. Okay, just 5 paragraphs. To some of you who don't like to write, or who have not taken a writing class before, or it's been a long time since you've taken a writing class, you may regard this assignment and all other essay assignments in this course as an annoyance, as something just to get over with. And so to you, 5 paragraphs may be very, very long, right? May be a challenge, right? But just understand, regardless of your perception or your attitude towards writing, understand that any given issue or event, or just subject that you're going to write about, you cannot capture or give an adequate overview or general picture of your topic in a 5-paragraph. So which means you're gonna have to narrow down your focus as much as you can, and you're going to take a perspective that is as narrowed as you can take. All right, so 2 of the perspectives that you can choose from is either to investigate 3 major significant causes of your issues, or to investigate or to analyze and determine what are the 3 major or significant effects or consequences or ramifications of your issue. So one or the other. You're either investigating, 3 causes, 3 reasons for your issue, for why it is the way it is, or 3 effects, or 3 possible, or 3 real life effects, or 3 possible potential effects. Okay, but make sure that you underline the qualifiers major and significant, because I'm guessing that for any issue or topic that you can come up with, you can probably list or brainstorm more than 3 causes or 3 effects. Alright, but that doesn't mean that whatever effects or causes that you can come up with, they should make it into your paper. Okay, because not all causes or not all effects or causes are equal. Right? For example, not all causes have the same power to influence your issue or to cause your issue, right? Some may be more powerful than others. Some may be weaker than others. Some may be more serious than others, right? And so forth. So they're not all equal, but it's your task, to go through each of the causes or effects that you can come up with and to analyze. Okay, remember this is a type of analytical essay to analyze each cause and determine what type of cause is it. Is it a main cause, a contributing cause, a secondary cause, or a primary cause? Is it a near cause or a far cause? Or how serious is it? How powerful or strong is it? And so forth. So if you can explain each of your causes in those terms, for example, then you're doing what you should be doing, which is analyzing. Okay, and once you can explain each of the causes that you can come up with in those terms, right, it is your job to pick only the major ones, the most significant ones that, despite other obstacles in the way, right, whether or not something is removed or something is added, its influence is still powerful in that it can still bring about the event. All right, now we get to discussing how to go about choosing a topic or brainstorming for topics, for possible topics, and where to look for inspiration to topic. Okay, but before we can talk about what kind of topics you may consider and what resources you may look to find inspiration, let's talk about what topics you cannot write about for this essay or other essays, any other essays in this course, right? I've stated in a previous course announcement that I posted a document listing all of these essay topics that you need to be avoid in course projects. All right, so let's go through them. All right, the topics that you need to avoid for all writing in this class are, and these may be expanded upon, but right now, as it is, these are the ones that I do not want you to write about. And let me just say, let me preface this discussion with a justification that these topics are not bad. Just because you are to avoid them doesn't mean that they're bad. That's not why these are very important topics. The reason that I would like for you to avoid them is that they have been too commented upon. They're too and they've been written about too much, that their freshness have been kind of diminished. Okay, so, and I also want you to be aware that these are not all of the issues that concern humanity, right? There are so many other issues out there that you can that you can consider that you may not even be aware of. Okay, so if in your mind you immediately, as soon as you're given the direction for this assignment and you immediately think of one of these topics to write about, then you're not challenging yourself. Okay, then you're relying on these, I call them quote unquote lazy topic, but that's not to take away the importance at all. It's just that it is so big, it is so much written about or commented on that that people immediately reference them, okay, or think about them, fall back on them. It's like a comfy cushion to fall back upon when you don't want to challenge yourself. Okay, so I do want you to challenge yourself, and I do want you to take this opportunity to learn of others issues out there that may not garner as much attention, but are just important. So these are, and like I said, this list is in course projects: abortion, gay marriage, gun law, death penalty, standardized testing, marijuana, blah. So you can read that for yourself. And I know that, and I'm guessing that many of you, upon learning or reading through this list, are probably wondering to yourself, well, Miss Nguyen, if I can write on any of these topics, what can I write about? All right, well, I am going to show you or to give you some suggestions in this lecture about where to look for inspiration, and you'd be surprised what uncommon or obscure issues or topics you can actually come up with once you train your mind to kind of clear off the path that is that is too popular, that is much taken, okay? And these, represent that kind of path, okay? All right. So bear with me. Do not be alarmed. So let's see. All right. So choosing a topic. Um, so now that we understand or are aware of what essay topics to avoid, let's talk about where you can look for inspiration for topics. Right, first of all, I would like for you to choose something that's uncommon, and you can look, and they can be uncommon at the local, regional, national, or international level of relevance. Okay, what you can do is you can go to your local library or the school library here and browse through the different publications that your libraries have, such as the different magazines or the different newspapers of different interests. And you don't have to read any articles, but you can certainly browse through the table of content, skim the titles of the articles to see what is out there, what are some people concerned with. Some of these magazines or newspapers can be, Time Magazine, New York Times, Newsweek, The Atlantic, Psychology Today, National Geographic, Nature, The Scientific American, the Washington Post, Los Angeles Post, I said New York Times. Let's see what else. Forbes, the Wall Street Journal. There are so many publications, and each of these publications do tend to write on a specific interest or specific topic. Okay, so the more diversity you can have in terms of the publications that you're consulting for inspiration, the more variety of ideas that you can have, right? And you don't have to look just at political publications. You can look at publications of different trades or interests. Architectural digest. Every subject, every field of interest or professional discipline have their own particular issues. All right, and if you're not directly involved in that field in any capacity, one way to kind of have an idea of, what are people talking about, what are people concerned with in a specific issue, is to read through their specific publication. Okay, so say if you're into architecture, Architectural Digest, I guess, is one of the publications that you can look at to kind of learn about, that field and what discourses are happening there, what conversations people are having concerning what issues and so forth. Those of you who are, who like fashion, who like to read magazines oriented to fashion, fashion is not off topic. There are issues. Fashion is a legitimate field, is a legitimate profession and industry, and there are many publications devoted to that topic, such as I think magazines such as Vanity Fair or Vogue, also can be resourceful, because I myself had read some really good investigative journalistic kind of articles in these magazines, right? So they're not all fashion, and fashion is not necessarily fluffy, okay? So those are the kind of places or resources that you can look for inspirations. Some of you may have children in school, in public schools, or in K-12 education, or some of you may be Move On When Ready students yourself. Another type of resources for you is browse through, or even if you're just a regular college student here, if this is not the only class that you're taking, and you're also taking science, biology, anatomy and physiology, psychology, history, religion, even in mathematics. I know that we tend to think of mathematics as a very objective discipline, but if you just browse through your different textbooks or your children's different textbooks and your history books and stuff like that, and see what are some of the major topics in each of these fields, right? And derive inspiration from that. And some of these magazines and newspapers that I talk about that should be made available at your local libraries, or even at our library here, right? Some of them do have an online version. Now, the online version is not as robust as their print versions, as the print publication. But if you don't have access or immediate access to immediate access to print copies or print editions, okay, you can certainly go online, and look at the online version of these print publications. www.newyorktimes.com. I think Wall Street Journal has one too, Forbes, and all of these other, Time as well. Browse through, the titles in those, right, and see, and kind of open your mind up to just, you'd be amazed. The Atlantic as well is my favorite. The New Yorker, you'd be amazed at how many issues are out there that you're not even aware of, that you never thought about, that you just don't go about your everyday life hearing people talk about. Okay. So you can look that, or you can look inside yourself. Think about what is concerning you right now, the issue that you're going through, like at work, or child care stuff, or just things that you're wrestling with, issues that you have, but make sure that that your personal issues also has social relevance, meaning that you can imagine the issue being addressed in a newspaper or magazine, or being addressed as a headline or something, in that that other people may be concerned with it as well. So that's what I mean by social relevance. Or your future, or anyone close to you, what they're going through. This is another, avenues of inspiration that you can look into. Okay. So like I said, the thing is, don't immediately fall on these, lazy topics that doesn't require much brainstorming. Look at as many different places as you can for inspiration, to make sure that you find something that's really interesting, that's uncommon, that can open up people's eyes or your readers' eyes in different ways. Right? And you can also, we have a very diverse student population here, and some of us are from another country, right? Some of us, have and some of us are bilingual, or we speak more than two languages. Look at that fact, and use that as your inspiration. Look at other cultures and traditions and ask questions about them, in terms of why and how, causes and effect. If English is not your first language, and you've gained a proficiency of English, but you're not as, say, fluent as you would like to be. What are some of the struggles of, of English acquisition that you're going through right now, and how might that be socially relevant? Ask those questions. Look at yourself as well. Consider other cultures and ask interested questions. And traditions and rituals, and there's just, think across curriculum. There's so many places that you can look for inspiration. All right. So as you look at these different places for inspiration, make sure that you take a note, right? So that you won't forget, your different ideas. So make sure that you capture your ideas as you're planning or brainstorming. All right. And so let's say you're looking through a magazine, okay, and you're skimming through headlines, right? Make sure that you record what interests you, okay, in a phrase or a word that captures just the topicalness of it, such as, say, if you're looking through the Chronicles of Higher Education, right, there's a lot of articles published by faculty and professors on, the different issues in higher education or public education, okay. Then capture your interest in a phrase, such as, you read or you skim the headline, or you skim an article on public education reforming efforts, and you might be interested in that. So write it down as a phrase, as a topical phrase or topical term: public education reform effort. So you're looking through your children's history books, the social studies books, right? And you come to a section where the civil rights movement is discussed, okay? And and you found some interesting facts and figures on it, and it presents the movement in a way that you haven't really been exposed to, or are aware of. Write down the topical term civil rights movement and whatever else to kind of help you remember. Or likewise, if you come across a section on World War I and you don't know too much about World War I, and you're skimming of it, you know, kind of fascinates you, capture the capture that fascination in as World War I strategy, World War I and creation of national states, World War I and blah blah, right? Just anything to remind yourself afterward, what was it that you found interesting about this topic, okay? But do not stop there in the planning process. Okay, what you want to do is, so it's not enough for you to post to the discussion board, or to tell me that, you're going to write your cause and effect essay on the civil rights movement. That doesn't really tell me anything about the focus of your essay. Yeah, I know it's going to be something about civil rights movement, but what about civil rights movement? Remember, I said you are writing a 5-paragraph essay, so you need to find as narrowed of a focus as you can in order to really fully to give a clear and vivid development and logical and just detailed development of your focus. So that's very, very important as well. All right, so don't stop, like I said, at these topical terms such as this, right? Push further, right? So what you can do after you take notes of the different topical terms is, if say you're interested in civil rights movement is one of the topics that you're interested in, all right, kind of brainstorm under civil rights movement, or draw a circle around the terms, the phrase civil rights movement, and have arrows coming out of them in different directions and pointing to different aspects of the civil rights movement that you can focus on. Okay, for instance, the media, right, or activism, or different clubs and organizations growing during the movements, or another aspect is the media portrayal of the movement, what's depicted on TV, famous people involvement in the movement, you know, how rhetoric is used in, and the resistance strategy of the major leaders of the movement and how they were effective and so forth. These are many different aspects that you can focus on, that you can kind of zoom in under this big umbrella topic of civil rights movement. So that's what I mean when I say be more specific. Okay. All right. And so, so once you have brainstormed different aspects of a single topic that you might be interested in, go further. Like say, okay, so one of the aspects that you were able to come up with under the civil rights movement is, you really want to write about, the rhetorical strategy, the rhetorical appeals or strategy that some of the major leaders, such as Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, used during the movement to bolster the movement, and how effective they were, and were they effective? Okay. And did they help the cause, or did they put back the cause? If that's what you choose to focus on, if that's what you want to write on, that is for me specific enough, okay, then you want to pose that as a question. You want to frame your focus as a question. For example, what type of rhetorical appeals did some of the major leaders, such as Dr. Martin Luther King, use during the movement, and did it help to advance the movement, or did it push it back? And how effective was it, right? That is a great question, and it would be focused enough, right? Or say, if you want to write on the American West, and the many different aspects of the big umbrella of topic of American West could be the expansion of the American West. Okay, then if you want to write on that, then ask, or what about the expansion of the American West? Okay, what about World War I? Right, World War I is too broad. There are many, many subtopics under World War I, many aspects, different areas of that topic that you can focus on. Which one will you focus on? Okay, so you can diagram your narrowing process. All right, and then finally, like I say, once you've zoomed in on a specific focus, smaller focus of a larger topic, then you want to pose your focus as a question. right? And I call that framing the issue or framing the question or framing question, okay? And the reason you want to do that, well, it has many benefits. And one is that it helps you to see as you're looking at your focus posed as a question, you're able to see immediately what your focus is and how to frame your essay according to the question. You're able to see the boundaries of your essays, right? The parameters of your essay. So, for example, some framing questions that you can have are these, right? If you're interested in the American West as a general topic and you brainstorm the different aspects of that topic into, expansion, railroad, territories, Native American treatment, conflicts with Native American and colonists, or Americans, so forth and so on. These are a few of the many aspects of the bigger topic of American West, and say, okay, you're interested in expansion in terms of the railroad, all right, but you got to push it further. Well, what about expansion? What about the railroad? Okay, and remember, your questions, because this is a cause and effect essay, make sure that your question or how you frame your focus in terms of a question must prompt for a causal analysis or an analysis of effect, okay, and nothing else. Because if your question is not intended or does not prompt, causes or effects analysis or discussion, then you would be writing in the wrong mode for this assignment. All right, so some example of framing questions for this essay could be: how did the invention of the railroad galvanize, propel, or affect expansion of the American West in the 1800s? If you're interested in the civil rights movement and you've narrowed down to many different aspects of that bigger topic, and the one that you want to focus on is the media portrayal of the movement, right? Then you can ask, what major way or in what major ways did the media help or hurt the civil rights movement? So you look back through your history books and you came across a section on the Western Roman Empire, and in that chapter on the Roman Empire, there's a section that talks about how it crumbled gradually, or how it crumbled, of course, metaphorically speaking, okay, or figuratively speaking, because the Western Roman Empire did collapse, right? And you want to know, well, how did it collapse, right? What are some of the events that eventually led to the collapse of the Western Roman Empire? So your framing question could be, as the focus of your essay could be, what major external or internal factors led to the collapse of the Western Roman Empire? Okay, or if you're into sports, you can certainly consult Sports Illustrated magazine for inspiration of some of the issues that are debated in the world of different sports, right? And and say you're a foreigner, and soccer, we are all aware, is big in the rest of the world except for the US, and you really want to know, why is it not a major sport in the US? Why is it not as popular in the US as, say, basketball or football or even baseball? Okay, that can certainly be your question, right? Why is soccer not a major sport in the US? Why is it not as popular as blah blah blah? Okay, because that question would prompt for investigation of the reasons, the causes. So it would be an appropriate mode. All right. So, like I said, you will take either one of these directions: causal analysis or analysis of effects. Okay. When you brainstorm causes and you're able to come up with some causes, some good causes, you want to also analyze your causes. You want to be able to first categorize your causes into different categories, because remember I said that not all causes are equal in terms of strength and power and influence, right? So you want to be able to explain to yourself in those terms each of your cause. You want to be able to ask yourself and answer to yourself, is this cause a primary or root cause, or is it contributing or secondary? Is it immediate or near or distant? Is it are there evidence or links, or evidence by way of measurements or testimony, or examples and so forth, that supports or disproves the causal links? All right, so let's talk about primary versus secondary. Primary or root causes are direct causes. right? These causes will directly affect the event, will bring about the event regardless of what's in the way or what's around it. It has a direct exertion on the event. It has a direct cause on the event. Secondary, right? Well, it's secondary, right? Second is removed from first, whereas primary is first. So secondary are contributing causes, right? Such as, something. So primary causes is the very beginning, right? And it directly influenced the event, where secondary or contributing causes can come somewhere after the beginning point, after the beginning origin, which is the primary, and it comes along and it adds to the pressure. Okay, it contributes or it adds to the pressure that eventually bring about this issue or event. Okay, so that's secondary or contributing. What causes are immediate, near, or remote distance. So you can think of immediate or remote in physical terms, in spatial terms as well, right? How far is the cause? Where did it come from? How near is it? How distant is it? And the idea is the more remote a cause is, the less, this is just a general rule, the more remote a cause is, the less influence or power it has, or the less influence or power it carries into the cause or into the event. All right. And by the way, these questions are in your textbook at the bottom of page 162. Same thing with these questions for analysis of effects. All right, so as you would with your causes, if you're writing on the effects, be able to explain for each of your effects, or to be able to categorize them and to explain or to talk about each of your effects in these terms: primary, secondary, or ripple effects. Secondary, primary, secondary, ripple, in terms of categories or classification, carry the same meaning as with the causes. The primary effects are just the direct effects. If this happened, this is going to happen. There's no question about it. Okay, secondary, is one step removed. This happens, but it is dependent on something else in order to bring about this effect. So that's secondary. And ripple effects are further removed from that. And the other effects, main or side effects. The difference between main effects and side effects are main effects are intended effects, are effects that are expected, whereas side effects are not expected. And they're not guaranteed all the time. So for example, you take pain medication or you take medication for something, right? And the main effect is to feel, for example, pain relief. That's why you take it. So that's the expected or the intended effect of the medication. But some side effects as a result of taking those medications may be, some typical side effects of medications are nausea, vomit, headaches, whatever. All right, that doesn't mean that they're going to happen each and every time, right? They may happen to you, but not another person, right? But they're not expected, and they're side effects. The effects are not intended to be produced, but they may come depending on certain contingencies. Okay. You also want to talk about your effects in terms of how serious they are or how strong they are. Okay. So the reason that you want to analyze your causes and effects is because, remember, going back to the assignment's direction, you want to discuss only the major ones, the major causes, the most significant ones, or the major effects and the most significant ones. Okay, the ones that are almost guaranteed all the time. All right, so I have a sample analysis that you can certainly use to practice your analysis of causes or effects. And if we have time, let me look at the schedule here. If we have time, if we have time, I may use this as as a participation activity for next week. So I will. So if I decide to add this on, to use this, I will announce it in the course announcement. All right. All right, research. Research is not required for this assignment, but you are but it is optional. I'm sorry. Okay, so if you're writing about an obscure and uncommon topic that you don't really have much information on or knowledge about, then you can certainly research to gain more information to determine, to help with your analysis of causes and effects. Okay, you can do that. But if you do, then make sure that you cite them correctly in your essay and document them correctly in the works cited page. I know we have not gotten to the discussion of, researching methods and citation and documentation methods and all of that. So that's why I would like it if you don't conduct research, and if you just, use your prior knowledge as much as you can and use your analytical thinking skills. Okay, but if you choose to research, make sure that you adhere to the 20% rule of quotation. And this information is in the general guidelines, of course, compositions, and also that you don't cite more than 3 sources. All right, so the next part comes outlining. Okay, your textbook, the first chapters, the early chapter, I'm not sure exactly what chapter, it might have been 3 or 4, but don't quote me on that. But in an early chapter of your textbook, the method of outlining is discussed, and it also gives you some examples of different types of outlining. But basically, it would be in your interest to outline your essay before you start to draft. Outlining provides or gives you a visual or written a visual of your essay's bare minimums or skeletons. Okay, skeletons are the main frameworks, or the main components of a structure, right? The framework of a house are the main components of a house, the pillars of the house, the foundations, and so forth. So the skeleton are the main components, right? And when you start to draft, that's when you flesh out the body, or you flesh out the details. But if you So I think that it would be very helpful to you to outline, but if you don't want to outline, then at least before you begin to draft your essay, at least formulate a working thesis statement. Okay, and this is where I'm going to refer to something I said earlier about posing the focus of your essay as a question, framing your focus of the essay as a question, whatever you want to call it. Okay, it is very useful for the reason that I've already discussed, but it's also useful for another reason, and this has to do with your thesis statement. Your framing question, or your framing question as the focus of your essay, prompts an answer, and how you answered and your answer to your framing question is your thesis statement. Okay, so let me say that again. Your answer to your framing question is your thesis statement, and you have to have a thesis statement in every essay. That's important. So if you've read or viewed all of the instructional materials that I've asked you to view early on in the semester regarding how to structure an academic essay, then you know what I'm talking about, and I expect for you to know what I'm talking about. So for example, if your framing question is, an earlier question that I provided as an example, how did the invention of the railroad galvanize, propel, affect expansion of the American West in the 1800s? How you answer this question specifically is your thesis. So say this is your answer. The invention of the railroad stimulated population and economic growth in the American West and allowed a greater access to the region as never seen before. Okay, that's your thesis. That is going to be what your entire 5-paragraph essay is about. You're going to talk about how the railroad helped to stimulate population and economic growth in the American West, and how it also brings greater accessibility to the region as never seen before. Okay, that's it. That's your thesis. That's the parameters of that's the 3 major points of discussion that's going to make up the main idea of your essay. If your framing question, your focus question for the essay In what major ways did the media help or hurt the civil rights movement? Then your essay is going to be about this, how you answer the question. The news media had the power to frame a certain narrative about the civil rights movement and influence people's perception of the movement through a selection of images and instances of racial struggles and conflict. If your focus question or framing question is what major external or internal factors led to the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, then your answer may be, and your thesis may be, a weakened central government, pressures and threats of outsider invasions, and economic stagnation led to the eventual collapse of the Western Roman Empire. And that's what your essay is about. You're going to explain, develop, and support how a weakened central government led to the collapse of the empire, and how also pressures and threats from outsider invasions and economic stagnation as well. Alright, so introduction is your first paragraph. You want to begin with the hook, something that captures your reader's interest, right? And then gradually you want to give background information and context for your issue or topic, because you cannot assume that your reader is familiar with your issue or topic. So provide context, provide background information that satisfy questions such as who, what, where, and how, or who, what, where, at least the WH question, in order to give just a general background information or overview of the issue. All right, because your reader will not be able to follow your argument to follow your essay and the specific discussion in terms of causes and effects if they don't understand the basics of your topic. So first you need to establish that before you can take them further down the road. And then you end the introductory paragraph with a thesis statement, which, as we've said, is your answer to your focus or framing question. And then you have 3 body paragraphs. Each of these body paragraphs will begin with a topic sentence, and the topic sentence will contain one aspect of the thesis. So for example, if your essay is on the collapse of the causes that led to the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, and this is how you answer the question, and this is your thesis, then your first body paragraph would be about the topic sentence, which says something about how a weakened central government led to the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. And then the rest of that body paragraph will provide very specific supporting details, right, such as historical facts or historical illustrations, historical whatever, that shows your reader, right, how the central government in the last years of the Western Roman Empire was weakened as compared to how it was before, and why it was weakened, and who made it weaken, and things like that, right? Specific historical details that help your reader see or understand how it was a weakened central government. And then your second body paragraph, according to this thesis statement, would be about how pressures from outsiders, such as the barbaric hordes in the barbaric Germanic hordes, for example, the Visigoths and so forth in the north, right, kept threatening to invade the empire, and they did execute. They did execute or implemented, different attacks on successful and unsuccessful attempts to invade and weaken the empire, right? So just different series of pressures and threats like that also contributed to the collapse, to the weakening state of the Roman Empire that eventually made it collapse. Okay, so your topic sentence, the first sentence of your essay, of the body paragraph, would contain or would say something about along the line of pressures and threats, and then the rest of that body paragraph would provide specific examples, specific instances from history, such as the Visigoths, for example. And this, I don't know how true this is, don't quote me on this, but for the sake of example, say some of your specific supporting details are the Visigoths from the year 180 to 230 AD, repeatedly, carried out a series of, successful and unsuccessful attempts or attacks, I'm sorry, attacks on the Roman Empire, and even the unsuccessful ones, such as the ones led by so and so leader of the tribe, was not completely successful, but it did weaken the Roman Empire in this way and so forth. So those are the specific supporting details that I'm looking for. Then, of course, the third body paragraph would be about how economic stagnation, if this is true, again, don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if these are the actual causes that led to the collapse. I'm just using this as an example just to have something to show you. All right, so your third body paragraph would be economic stagnation, and you would provide, so your topic sentence would say something along this line to express that this is the main idea of this body paragraph. And the rest of your body paragraph, like the other two, will provide specific examples of how the economy was stagnant, I'm sorry. Alright, so that's the body, and then your conclusion paragraph would wrap it up, would concisely summarize just the major points of the essay and offer final insights and remarks about the issue. And this is your final chance to really make the case that the three causes that you're highlighting in the essay, or you discuss in the essay, are really significant and major causes that led to, for example, the collapse of the Western Roman Empire.